All right, so we're here with another episode of the pod. We got the preacher, John Weller. We got the outsider, myself, Todd Saunders. And we got the dealer, also known as the savage dealer, Jason Goldberg. And here's the pod. Before this, we were all chatting about moonshots. And I think Google was the one that really popularized this idea of moonshots, which is basically like trying new things outside of your core business that might not be revenue streams today, but that could be revenue streams in the future. And Google talks a lot about some moonshots they took that didn't work. Do you guys remember the Loom project where they're going to put balloons up in the air to give internet for everyone? That was one. They failed on a lot of these moonshots, but some worked. Look at YouTube. Look at Gmail. Those were side projects outside of Google search that turned into something massive. And I know a lot of dealers ask us about like, what other things can I be doing to generate revenue? So I'm curious, on your side, being the dealer, are there moonshots that you take as a flooring retailer that like are there some that worked for you and are there some that didn't work for you, I guess?
Yeah, I have plenty of both, and so let me hit a couple that didn't work for us. One was years ago. We decided that we built this great design center, and we decided that we were going to get into remodeling.
At the time you were mostly retail and
I was a mostly builder,
mostly builder.
and we built a design center. People paid me to have their all their associated products in the showroom, and I felt like to be able to sell and move those products, we had to form a remodeling company so that they could all get their value. Well, 2.5 years later and $1 million poorer, I shut that, and then I let everyone out of their contracts for the space. It
How
just
did you know when to cut it off? Was it like if I lose $1 million, I'm done? Or when like what was that turning point to
I
know it's
lost
done?
$1 million and the Great Recession hit. So I started it in 2005. I shut it down in 2007 because I like if I continue to lose money with the recession hitting, this could put me out of business. So I had to make a choice. It's like what's more important? This remodeling business that I've never made any money. I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm averaging $500,000 a year in losses, or do I take my flooring businesses that has allowed me to fund this thing and it was an easy decision to make.
Yeah, you need to walk the line of like your core business, but ideas that can push it forward. But you have to be willing to not get so emotionally attached and not, be honest with yourself of when to cut. So that was
It's
one that didn't work, I
it's the
guess.
hardest thing. It's the one of the hardest things is to throw in the towel because no one
Yeah.
and so but once you've done it and you realize that you have to make these really important decisions for the best of the business, they become much easier. But the most important thing is take the lessons away from it.
Yeah.
You're going to learn a ton from that loss. The second one, and I'll be really quick on this one, is probably everyone knows Chalama, which I advertised the heck out of to launch that. You know, trade labor to business. Well, if anyone's noticed, I haven't talked about it in a while because I completely shut it down. That was $750,000 over the course of a year and a half. Now I still have it, like I still have all the code and stuff. It could definitely be reborn again, but for now, it was a moonshot that didn't work.
What was the turning point there of when you decided it was time to part ways with trauma?
After I spent so much time and so much money, the market wasn't taking it, right? The market told me that you don't have to me, this concept is sound. The market, to them, it was not because we people weren't using it. I mean, as
Yeah,
simple as I can put
yeah,
it, people
yeah,
weren't using
single,
it,
yeah.
right? So there wasn't a sense in chasing it at
Yeah.
that point. I chased it long enough.
So those are two moonshots that didn't work. You have a $200 million store here. There are some moonshots that worked.
Yeah, so I'll give you, by the way, I have a lot more that didn't work as well, but I'll give you two that worked. And I'll use kind of the same thing, one in tech and one for my business. So we wanted to do retail, and we wanted to get big into retail
And this
because
was what year?
this was somewhere around probably 2005 or six.
Okay. I was 15.
Okay. And we had just moved into this building that you're in, but the showroom wasn't finished. And the showroom was being designed for that concept that I just told you about. So we didn't have a retail showroom. We were looking in another market. We were examining another market. A friend of mine who's a realtor who used to be in the flooring space,
Can I ask one more question? In 2005, you were doing how much in revenue? Roughly.
roughly 18 million,
Okay.
best guess. So we went. This realtor friend of mine went with us, and it was me, Tim, who was president, chief operating officer of the company at the time, and we were looking, and we kept talking about flooring. And when we got back, he's like, "I want to get out of doing real estate. I want to get back in the flooring business." So I said, "Well, great, because we want to get into retail. We're gonna do shop at home. I've had this idea for, in-home shopping with our vehicle, our graphics, like completely, company sponsored, not like how the empires of the world do it, where you get a 1099 subcontractor running in their car with 15
So you
samples. I
don't
hate that
do
model, just to be
in-home pressure
clear.
sales,
Yeah, I want to do in-home.
non-pressure sales.
Well, I'm not going to say non-pressure. I mean, you may have to apply a little, but I mean, yeah,
There's a
in
balance.
comparison, yeah, a balance. You have to ask for the order.
Yeah,
Like
of
if
course.
that's pressure, then I guess we're putting pressure on them.
Sure.
And then if they say no, you got to get to the objections. So you can ask for the order again and again if you have
So
to.
would you
But
consider him your first shop-at-home employee?
he is my first retail employee.
Wow.
And him and I went to junior high and high school together. Just he's a good friend of mine as well. So that one worked. We have over 20 some mobile floor sources on the road today, but now we have retail showrooms in all the markets we're in, and retail has grown from that time. It's now the second largest segment in my entire company. Builders first and retail second.
Let me just double tap on that for a second, because we get asked a lot from dealers that want to get into shop at home. Maybe as one of their moonshots, and maybe it does work, it doesn't work. What should people look for to know if their shop at home is working or if their shop at home isn't working? Let's say they're doing it for a year. What signs point to they should keep doing it and expand it, or like, hey, it's not for you, cut it?
So, well, first of all, we have to really define what my version of shop at home and their version of shop at home could be two different things. Saying you do shop at home, which just means that someone calls one of your salespeople, grabs some samples, throws them in their car, and runs out. That's not shop at home.
What is that?
What
do you call that?
You're just offering a service. I mean, you're just offering, if the customers want to see samples in their home, a true shop at home service means you're either your whole business is structured for that. You have no showrooms and it's all to their house, or you're like what I did. You do have showrooms, but you have an exclusive set of salespeople. You have vehicles that are pre-set up.
Curated products, I assume.
Curated products, advertising specific for shop at home, and that's all you do. I would tell you that every flooring store offers shop at home, because if you called one of your local flooring stores and said, well, can you just bring the samples to my house? I know exactly what I want. I guarantee you that they're going to throw some samples in their car and come out.
Yeah, of course. They go out and measure. We need a new name for that. That's not shop at home. You call it a service. We need a
That's like in-home consulting.
yeah, in-home consultants. Better name for it. Well, you said you had one more in tech.
Yeah, so in tech was retail lead management. I mean, that was a moonshot. That one turned out tremendously. I use it in every aspect of my business, and I was able to get it in your hands, and I got a decent check for that, and I get to consult and still help improve it and all the technology that we're working on, which is is awesome. But that's a moonshot that worked, and it's helped not just me. That one helped a tremendous amount of dealers, where my other moonshots were
For you.
for me and my company. This one helped, and it didn't. When I started that one, there was no intent. Like, it was just trying to solve a problem for America Source, and it ended up solving problems for hundreds, by now probably thousands of dealers.
Yeah, definitely thousands. And I find it interesting, like moonshots that help you sell more or sell differently. We look at ways to sell differently, and we've tried a lot of things. And I'm curious about early Floor Force. Like, did you guys take any moonshots? And specifically, I'm curious around like how you sold or how you went to market. Jason went to market first as a builder, and then this shop at home. Like, did Floor Force sell differently and either fail or have it work?
100%. So when we started Floor Force, first of all, dealers were not talking about technology, digital marketing at all, zero. So the time that we could ever talk to them
What
in
year did you
mass,
start Floor Force?
we started Floor Force in 2000.
So the internet existed. Was Facebook around?
2007. Facebook, what might have been started, but nobody. That was not an advertising avenue for anybody. But to be honest with you, the only time you could get in front of retailers at mass was at a flooring show, coverings, surfaces. And so we would go to these shows. We would have 5, 7 salespeople there. We'd interface, and we'd sell a lot of websites, sometimes 100 websites at a show. But then we would go the whole year, and I'd have all these people on staff, and we would sell nothing throughout the entire year. So I got it in my head, we have to do something, because we can't just run a company like this. So we ended up splitting up the country.
Speaking like this, do you like roller coasters?
I love roller coasters.
All right, I can tell why. Anyway, keep going.
We split up the company. We split up the country. We assigned every salesperson an area, and we bought flights and booked hotels all over the country for people to go face to face with retailers and sell websites. That was a massive moonshot. We put a lot of money into it. And I knew pretty quickly, as all of a sudden people would call me and say, yeah, I was in the store for 7 hours. The guy never got free from talking to customers. And we started extending stays into towns from 3 days to 5 days to 7 days. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the sales not happening, but all of a sudden, the hotel bills ringing up, flights ringing up, and it was a moonshot that definitely did
I'm
not work out.
curious because listen, I'm new to the industry, but when I talk to dealers, they talk that manufacturers or distributor reps show up in their showroom all the time, and I don't know like if those are planned. I'm sure some are planned. I'm sure some people just show up with a display. Like, isn't that kind of the same thing that you're saying didn't work?
Yeah, listen, it's a learned behavior. It's the way it's always been, and in my mind, it is something that should change. Listen, you think about our consumption today. Every single person is looking at their phone all day long. That is where we now consume the most amount of content about whatever we want to learn about, what we're shopping about. How we have not leveraged the very available technology to disseminate information through technology in this industry is mind blowing to me. If you think about that, you're asking every person that works for your company to come to a location at the same time
What
with
time
a
is it? Is it usually
person,
in the morning?
usually in the morning. Usually
Ye-
there's donuts
What kind of
involved,
donuts?
an arrangement of
Do you
donuts.
remember the best PK meeting you ever gave?
I do remember the most interesting one I ever gave and the most successful one, yes.
Did you bring donuts?
I did not bring donuts. It was the day after Hurricane Andrew wiped out Miami, and I was giving a presentation to Bird on a product called Acrylan, which was like a synthetic wool alternative. And I called this guy who was the buyer at Bird to ask if we were still doing it. He answered the phone and he said, "They have moved my phone from my office, which has been demolished, to this payphone, but I do have a location we can meet." I got there, the guy met me in like this makeshift office, presented to him Acrylan, which was this giant bag of
So
knockoff
when you
wool.
say present, you're like, look at this product, look at the specs, it's amazing.
Yeah, we went through it. We're rubbing the carpet, as you always laugh at. Talking about how beautiful it is and how consumers will think about it, and wouldn't this be a great addition to the Bird store at the time? And he took it for all the Bird stores. So that was my most successful. But now we're talking 20 years ago, and that's the way it should have been 20 years ago. Today, in my opinion, I think those samples could be there. They could be sent out to the individual salesperson, and those people could be learning on their own time in a more convenient time, and probably taking that information and being much more valuable to them because they're not rushed or forced to be somewhere at 7 o'clock in the morning and eat a jelly donut while having someone talk to them
The
about
new
products.
PK meeting is a video or an interactive quiz. I mean, you could buy a car now via an app that comes to you and be educated on that car via video. You don't need a whole. I don't need a sales. Could you imagine if I had a if I ordered that car and then it came with it came the manufacturer rep that came with the car to explain to me all the little tiny details about the car I just bought on Carvana. It seems very similar, parallels
It
here.
doesn't even make sense.
It
If you
doesn't.
want to think about this, you have the thing that's amazing about our industry. These products are beautiful and there's a story behind them all, right? Every single product was influenced from something in nature, a pattern, whatever it is. There's an amazing story. However, that story is going to be told best by probably the person in the R&D department or the marketing department at this manufacturer. Now you've got 500 reps giving their interpretation of that to 5,000 retail salespeople of their interpretation, which will be turned around now to a million consumers. You're never going to get the real story out to that consumer about the
Yeah,
intent of
it's
that product.
how can you tell that story directly to the consumer? I'm curious, you were on one side of the PK meetings, like, do you guys have PK meetings here still? And like, do they work?
So, look, I can tell you that yes, some of the unit leaders still have reps come in and talk to their team, especially when they have new people. I do not like them. I'll give you my quick version. So years ago, I called in some reps to do some PKs. This was before we had our LMS set up, and we'll talk about that in just a second.
You want to
What is an
probably
LMS? Because
Learning management system. Okay. So a rep came in and started giving a meeting, and in about 3 minutes, I was watching this meeting, and I just
in 3 minutes, he went back to his office, got a flight.
I know where this is going.
no. The rep was asked to step aside, and I took over the meeting, and I did the PK. I did the full presentation. The problem I have with PKs is the person doing the PK doesn't understand your business. So you got to be able to talk about that product, and then in terms of how your business operates. So I don't like these reps filling my people's heads with either nonsense or things that they don't really know what they're talking about. The next time a rep comes into my store and shows a new product and tells us how much it's going to cost to install this product, I may throw them out of the store, right? I mean, when they came out with larger tiles, guess what? They said your installation is going to cost less because they're going to be able to put down a bigger tile. It's going to cover more square feet. They were just so wrong in their assessment. So I don't like reps giving PKs. What they should do, when a rep comes into my store, if you show up unannounced, you're basically here for the salespeople to see if they need anything. I don't want to talk to you. Like, I'm busy. You want to talk
Has
to
a rep
me?
ever just wandered into his
Reps,
office? And
when
been
you're in my other office, that door is typically open. And I hate it. If I'm working in a rep stop spot, walks
Hey,
by my door,
Jason.
sees me, and he stops and he looks and he goes, "Hey, Jason." And then I'll give a quick wave, and sometimes I sit there and I want to say, "Go, go. We don't have an appointment. I'm busy. You just interrupted me. I don't show up at your office." So, anyways, look, there's a lot of good information that a manufacturer is capable of telling us about their product. And guess what? You can do that in about 3 minutes on a video. And for that's all we really need. Turn all your PKs into digital. And I don't care how long they are, try to keep them under 15 minutes. And then we'll be able to use those. And then your reps, when you come in to see what my salespeople need.
Yep.
That's what we need you for. And if I need you or my purchasing department needs you, they're going to pick up the phone and call you or email you, and we're going to set up an appointment.
And not just that, if you have a new RSA that starts, you can just say, hey, here's the video they made of these products. Watch this video. And you kind of made a connection to the LMS, because similar, rather than you guys you having a trainer come in and train people over and over and over again, the same training, you have an LMS, which is a learning management system, like you said, for how to work at AFS. It feels like the manufacturer should have the same thing, like an LMS training videos that's scalable and easy to go through. And if you have a new RSA that starts, you can include their videos in it. Like, how do you use your LMS? Because maybe some manufacturers, distributors can use a similar platform.
First, I want to answer that. You would think that these manufacturers would already have this stuff.
Do you actually think that?
I think that people are starting to catch on. Like, my LMS has over 300 courses on so many different things: product knowledge, leadership, application, care and maintenance, installation, construction. Like, we have all these courses that we put in that are meaningful. And I look at the rest of the industry and I can see people are starting to do it. But how do you get it all consolidated done? I don't want to jump into 20 different places, which is why we took all the content and brought it all into one place. So it's very easy to manage and to keep track of what everyone's doing.
But do you have like product information from each of your manufacturers in there?
From most, yes.
So you have videos?
Yeah.
Oh, so they are doing video PK sort of type things.
Either they're doing them or we're doing them. But I wouldn't say like, Mohawk or Shaw or whoever, or Dixie, they launch a new product line. Like, we're not creating normally a video for that one product. Like, here's the features and benefits of this product line. That we're not doing, because the manufacturer should. And if they do it good enough, then maybe we'll put it into our LMS.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The manufacturer should be creating stuff and then giving it to people like me to say, how do I, just like they work so hard to try to get a product on my floor, why don't you work just as hard to try to get some of those digital assets into my LMS? Because I make my people do 90 minutes of training. I don't make them, but my people do 90 minutes of training in our LMS every single week.
Wait, let's take a step back. You said you don't make them. I thought it was Jason Goldberg's way that if you're not going to use it this way, then you don't have to work here. So do you make them, or do you not make them use the training?
I would like to think they want to do the training.
Okay, but we know that's not true. Can someone be at this company and not do the training?
I don't want to think that I make anyone do anything. I think that I make people want to do things.
What percent of the people that work here today have gone through the training?
Gone through which training? All 300 courses? Everyone. Now everyone's in various spots.
Okay.
Not everyone's taken all. There's only one person that's taken every course, and that's me. Yeah. But I would tell you this, that we call ourselves the professional experts. I'll put my staff up against anyone. Like, we know more about flooring, about every aspect: construction, flooring, care and maintenance, installation, application. I'm not talking about just me. I'm talking about at every level. And that's such a huge difference maker, in that we actually know what we're doing on all things. So if manufacturers started giving and creating good content that we could get in, and then someone watches that good content, then they're going to be more apt to probably want to sell that manufacturer's product, which is why the manufacturers send these guys in for these PKs. That whole dog and pony show is to get them to sell this product from X. That's it. It's not about improving my people at all, which is why I took over that meeting. By the way, I had 3 other PKs scheduled after that one. I was scheduling one a week. The next 2, same thing. I took over both meetings. I canceled them all after that. I said, I'm not scheduling these with these people because they're not doing what I feel needs to be done. The average flooring dealer, that's how they train their people.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And even the digital assets part of that, we deal with that, right? We beg a lot of, some manufacturers are good, but we beg the manufacturers for good assets. The swatch images we get for websites sometimes are like the guy went to a back room and took a picture of a plank. It's like, this is a good swatch asset. We have an in-store visualizer, an online visualizer that we offer the manufacturers for free to put on the retailer's website so consumers can use it. And we can't get manufacturers to simply give us scans
Let
of
me
those
ask,
products.
not to interrupt, let me ask one question. Why can't a manufacturer, when they release a product and they send us the data, whatever, why doesn't every product automatically include an image of the product, an image that has a good enough quality set that it can be put on a website and a room scene? Why doesn't every product just come that way?
How about on top of that, pricing information, inventory information, spec information, all in one file? That way it can syndicate to your ERP, your website. I mean, the fact that all that's not together is nuts.
I can tell you part of the reason, and it's one of the pivots that we made related to how we sold websites in the beginning. In the beginning, I would spend hours and hours educating every retailer on how Google works, how SEO works, why you need it, how many pages on the website you need, all of these things. It would be 3 hours before you would even have the question, would you like a website? And we flipped that into, how can I help you grow your business? What if I told you I could get you more phone calls, more form fills, more emails asking for these products and samples to be checked out? When we started talking about the outcome of having a website is when we could sell a website in 10 minutes. A lot of manufacturers are stuck because of the mentality within that building of, well, they're doing so many innovative things with the technology within those products. That's what they really talk about. That's where they focus. But what they're not thinking about is the application of them with the salesperson and the consumer, and how you guys use those things to actually better your business. And they're starting to catch on, I believe. But to the point, they don't think a lot about what's going to happen with these products when it relates to the consumer and selling them in.
Well, I think the issue generally I see in the flooring industry, and I think you said it best, was it's the way it's always been done. And that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been done. And if we continue to have that mentality in a recession, good luck, right? We'll be wiped out if that's the way we think about things.
Yeah, listen, this is a resilient industry. The one thing I will tell you, and you know this, like this industry is resilient. And I will tell you, having been running this company for a very long time, when things get tight is when you see creativity and you see people start to think outside the box and what can we do to differentiate ourselves. With the move that technology's made through COVID, where now everyone is using technology more than they ever have, I believe if we hit a really deep recession, you're going to see a transformation like we've never seen, where people are forced into thinking differently and being creative and trying to differentiate themselves. And that could actually move the industry forward in a positive way, as weird as that may be, because of the recession.
The industry, well, has a tendency, and we're really talking about at the manufacturer and distributor level right now, of not doing anything, and then at the 11th hour when things have to get done, they'll throw a whole bunch of money at it. And to me, that's probably what's going to happen with digital. The problem I have with it is I'm looking at these companies, and I want to try to say this in a way that I don't piss anyone off, but you know me, I probably will, is I look at these companies and I look at the level of the person, not that they're not qualified. I'm looking at some of the partners they're picking, and it's like what I did 20 years ago to pick out who was doing my website. It's like, are you kidding me? You have these companies out here that are young and they understand this so well. But I mean, you guys are one of them, and they're not embracing it. They're almost fighting it. They're almost like, you're the outsider and we're not going to let you into our world. And instead, they're going to use people in their world who aren't really taking us to where we need to go. So there's going to be a group of us who are going to get there. And there are going to be another group who's going to be constantly chasing, because you guys are not doing it. You want to do it the same way you've always done it. You need to quit it.
Yeah, the world has changed since the 1900s. I think we can all agree with that. But with that, we're out of time. For the preacher, the outsider, and the dealer, see you next time.